The 12 best games for the Nintendo Switch. You just bought a new Nintendo Switch. Now it's time to figure out what games you want to play. We've got you covered. Since the Switch came out, Nintendo has managed to maintain a solid ratio of good games on their system. At this point, there's a healthy selection of fantastic Switch games to choose from. As with all of our bests lists, we'll continue updating this one as long as people keep putting out new Switch games. Each game we add will need to replace an existing entry. This list in particular got really good relatively quickly, so expect it to become even better as more and more games come out. Here are the 12 best games you can get for the Nintendo Switch. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild is a monumental artistic achievement, a video game so creative and full of surprises that we'll be talking about it for years to come. It's also unlike any Zelda game before it. For years, Zelda games were defined by no. You can't reach this place until later, you can't solve this puzzle until you get the right item. Breath of the Wild is the best Zelda game to date, and it accomplishes that simply by saying yes. A good match for anyone who likes games that let you explore and make your own fun, horse lovers. Not a good match for anyone who preferred the strict structure of other recent Zelda games. Stardew Valley is an already great game made indispensable by the Switch. The 2016 farming, dating, life sim lets you forget your worries and embrace a soothingly banal life in the countryside. You water your crops in the morning, and think about how you're going to improve your farm. You head into town and stop by the general store to get seeds and chat up the cute boy you've had your eye on. And if you want, you explore the mysterious mine, gather magical materials, and uncover the deeper secrets of the valley. It's a game with a seemingly endless amount to do, and it fits perfectly onto a handheld. A good match for fans of games like Animal Crossing, Harvest Moon, or Minecraft. Anyone looking for a relaxing but terrifyingly addictive game. Not a good match for anyone looking for a straightforward game. Stardew Valley is calming and low-key, but it's also extremely complex and doesn't always explain itself that well. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate perfects the long-beloved Super Smash Bros. Formula for both the button-mashing 7-year-old and the single-minded competitive gamer. It's the old platform fighter we've been obsessed with since 1999, but this time, with a Leviathan roster of 76 fighters. Mastering one could eat up a year, but it's more fun to sample them all. Smash Ultimate is a museum of Nintendo celebrities, a gaming fandom WrestleMania. Everything is customizable, the rule sets, fighter balancing, stage hazards. With all that stuff, and so many ways to manipulate it, Smash Ultimate is a crowd pleaser that doesn't discriminate between a middle school birthday party and a stadium of screaming pros. A good match for anyone with a competitive bone in their body, people who have at any point loved Nintendo, anyone who hosts parties or fans of any of the previous Smash games. Not a good match for people who hate conflict or primarily enjoy gaming alone. Hollow Knight is a tiny epic that jams an extraordinary amount of secrets, challenges, and rewards into its sprawling subterranean kingdom. It's a little bit Castlevania and a little bit Metroid, with a roomy map and remote regions you can only access after unlocking one of many character upgrades. It's a little bit Dark Souls, with its Forsaken Kingdom, tough bosses, shortcut-strewn maps, and threat of losing progress upon death. And it shares platforming DNA with games like Ori and the Blind Forest and Super Meat Boy, all wall slides and air dashes. It bakes up those ingredients before frosting on a layer of its own distinct vibe, and those who choose to brave the buried insect realm of Hollownest will be rewarded with one of gaming's great spelunking expeditions. Surprising, challenging, rewarding, and unexpectedly funny, Hollow Knight is absolutely worth your time, and works particularly well on the Switch. A good match for those who like a challenge, Metroidvania fans, anyone looking for a deep, rewarding game to really sink their teeth into. Not a good match for the easily frustrated. Hollow Knight can be a brutal, unforgiving game, and it throws players into the deep end early. It contains bosses and platforming challenges that may have you tearing your hair out. Ah, the blue shell. There may be no better metaphor for the bleakness of life. 1 minute you're cruising along, on top of the world, and then, bam, you're totally hosed. Just when you thought you had it in the bag, life throws a blue shell. Mario Kart 8 isn't really all that philosophical, of course. It's the same Mario Kart formula re-tuned and polished to an absurd degree, easily one of the most fun party games you can play on the Switch or any other console. Best of all, the deluxe version on Switch includes all the DLC maps and characters from the Wii U game and also completely overhauls that version's woebegone battle mode. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the definitive version of an already great game. A good match for people who like moving really fast, people who like seeing Luigi look really mean. Not a good match for people who don't like Mario Kart? Do those people exist? Bright lights, loud music, and a towering dominatrix beating the living hell out of a bunch of monsters, Bayonetta gets the sequel she deserves. Everything the first game did, the second game does just as well, while throwing in a bunch of new weapons and abilities in on top. If you've ever wanted to whip a massive angel into submission using your hair, this is your game. We'd be remiss if we didn't also mention the first Bayonetta, which is also a fantastic game and which you can get for a discount if you buy it along with the sequel. A good match for fans of fast-moving action games like Devil May Cry and, well, the first Bayonetta. Not a good match for anyone looking for something relaxed to play, people who prefer games with a more subtle, low-key aesthetic. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is a fantastic platforming game that had one major drawback when it was released on Wii U in 2014. True to the series' tradition, it was very difficult. It could be hard to appreciate the abundance of verve and creativity jammed into each of the game's levels when you were constantly dying. Tropical Freeze's Switch port addresses that problem with a new, funky mode that offers a couple of ways to make everything easier, all without losing the colorful playfulness that makes it such an unusually appealing game. There are a lot of good platforming series out there, but none quite like Donkey Kong Country. Tropical Freeze is a more than worthy entry in the series. A good match for fans of the DKC series, people who like a challenge, those who love really good music. Not a good match for those who hate difficult games. Even on its easiest setting, Tropical Freeze can still be challenging. Expect to die a lot. Undertale might look like a retro-style JRPG, but it's unusually forward-thinking. As a human stuck in a world of monsters, you decide whether you want to win encounters with wanton violence or clever context-based interactions, talking, joking, petting, etc. Undertale keeps track of everything you do, it's paying very close attention, and will often express that attention in surprising ways. Every life you take ultimately has consequences. Despite those grim trappings, Undertale can be an incredibly warm, fuzzy, and funny game. Whether you slaughter or befriend everyone or walk a middle path, the writing in this game is top tier, the soundtrack is second to none, and the plot hides a treasure trove of secrets that players still haven't fully uncovered. A good match for lovers of smart video game stories, fans of games that subvert expectations, people who've ever felt even a single pang of loneliness. Not a good match for people who hate shoot-'em-ups and tough boss battles. Undertale's combat system has elements of both, those who aren't fond of reading dialogue, haters of lo-fi pixel art. Splatoon 2 builds on the foundation laid by its fantastic Wii U predecessor with a more fleshed-out single-player mode, an addictive new co-op mode, and League play at launch. At its core, though, it's the same brilliant mix of fine-tuned gameplay, Nickelodeon slime and J-pop dazzle that made the original great. It's a simple idea, you paint the floors, then swim through your paint to move faster and reload your gun, and it works beautifully. It's easy to get sucked into the grind for the freshest fashion and the highest ranks, but none of that would work if the game weren't fun, which it most certainly is. A good match for anyone looking for an online shooting game that's a little bit different from the rest. People who like colorful style, fashion, and goofy memes. Not a good match for those looking for a more traditional online shooter to play with friends. Splatoon's party and chat systems are pretty terrible, and it's way too difficult to casually play with a group. Celeste is a difficult game, but it's just so gentle about it. As you help your character mantle and warp jump her way to the top of the eponymous mountain, you'll find that no matter how complex a room looks, the underlying solution is simple: jump. That purity of design combines with fine-tuned controls and a charming story to make Celeste into a winning, joyful experience. The music is fantastic, too. Into the Breach is basically chess, except with mechs and kaiju in place of rooks and knights. The latest game from the makers of FTL, Faster Than Light, mixes tactical turn-based combat with randomized encounters to make every playthrough challenging in a different way. Your time-traveling commander can always see one enemy turn ahead, which makes the game as much about careful planning as it is about resourceful reacting. Everything is so well designed and presented so clearly that before too long, you'll be developing complex strategies in your sleep. A good match for lovers of turn-based strategy, anyone who enjoys coming up with a plan, watching that plan fall apart, and quickly coming up with a new plan. Not a good match for anyone who prefers a little more action in their games, those who don't like games that make you start all over again if you lose. Super Mario Odyssey is all about freedom, and it is glorious. Unlike recent Mario games, the red-hatted plumber no longer must move forward in a straight line. The timer is gone, and each level is a toy box filled with platforming challenges, surprising secrets, and all kinds of goofy fun. It's one of the best feeling, most charming, freshest games we've played in ages, and a cinch to recommend on the Switch. A good match for platforming fans, Mario 64 and Sunshine fans, people who like hats. Not a good match for people who hate 3D platforming, people who hate hats. Click the link below to get the best product in the market. It's an affiliate link.